friend, I've been getting a lot of questions about my brows lately, and people have been asking how to get natural brows without looking painted on in general. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to naturally fill in your brows. When it comes to natural brows, the products that I recommend using are either a pencil, a brow powder, or an eyeshadow that looks like your hair color, or a brow pen. But beware, if you're heavy-handed, don't use a brow pen because they can get really dark real quickly. My favorite pencil to use for natural brow, and the one that I'm going to use today, is the Anastasia Brow Definer. I like the brow definer more than even like Brow Wiz or things like that because it is very light. It doesn't give you a lot of pigment, so you have more control. And when you're going with something natural, the key is to make sure that it's not too dark. The color that I'm using is Taupe. And in general, you wanna go with the brow color that's going to match the darkest part of your hair. So even though my hair is pretty light here, I'm going with something that's going to match my roots. If natural is your goal, keep away from Anastasia's Dip Brow or any brow pomade. Those are very dramatic. Now, if that is your jam, my students in my makeup course, I do have a lesson on using pomade and even stencils if you want something very defined. So go check that out. And if you're not a student, I did drop the link in the description box below so you can check it out. You probably saw a lot of brow demos where people will tell you the exact points that you should start your brow, where your brow art should be, and where your brow should end. That's not the focus of this video. This video is to really just enhance what you've got and only fill in where necessary. Again, you hear me say this a lot in my videos, purposeful placement. So looking at my brows, I don't know if you can tell, but my eye goes straight to it. I got this bald spot right there in the middle of the brow. I don't know what I did. I might have overplucked a little bit too much because I tend to get plucking happy, but it's very obvious. So I'm gonna start there. Now you notice it's here, but this area is very full in the front. So I don't need to fill in there. And this is one of the things that I want you to take home the most. Only fill in where necessary. Look at your brows, figure out where you're more sparse, and that's where you're putting your product. You're being really purposeful with your placement. So I've got my brow pen. This is a brow definer. It's in the shade Taupe, and I'm holding it with the point. So you can see here's the point. This is the point of the slant, and I'm holding that facing my nose. So when I go to fill in my brow, the first thing that I want to do is go right there and just fill on in. And there we go, it's covered up. I'm not going to do the same thing on the other side just yet. I'm going to focus a little bit more right here. Now, the key to also having natural brows is you want to start at the base of your brow and pull up through the hairs. So because this was a bald spot, and if you can see, right here in the very, very front, it's not very even there either. So I want to also correct that. So I'm going to go back to that spot and I'm going to go at the base of the brow and I'm just going to pull up to let the brow product go through the hairs almost as if I'm putting a shadow behind my actual eyebrows. Now I'm also pressing very lightly. I don't want to apply a lot of pressure because that's how it can look really dramatic and I want it to look natural. I don't want people to know that I really filled in my brows. So I've got that spot done. Now I'm going to go in and do the other side. I do recommend doing your brows at the same time. Some people will do one full brow and then move on to the other side, but we're going to do them together. This is also going to help with the symmetry. So when I look at my other brow, I am noticing that even though it's more fuller in the front, I do have some patchy areas right here. Do you see that? Oh, and something I forgot to mention, and I'm sorry that I didn't say this earlier, make sure that you use the spoolie side of your brow product to comb up your hairs. You want to comb up the hairs in the direction that they grow, so this also keeps your brows looking nice and fluffy. So now I'm going in on this side. The point of the slant is still facing towards my nose, and I'm going to go right in this spot, go at the root of, or the bottom of the brow again, and just press up through the hairs. Just do little strokes. And if you've got a really big bald spot like I did on that side, you can turn the brow product where the tip of it is facing down towards your eye and draw in little strokes. Some people like to go in with Brow Wiz or one of the pencils that is a little bit more skinnier. Benefit has them too. I don't love to use those brow pencils all the time for my brows because I run out of them really quickly. This brow definer lasts for months. Okay, so now that I got that area filled in, I'm gonna just do a little bit right there in the front just so I match the balance that I got going on here because you can see it's nicely defined along the bottom. I wanna make sure that the same thing is happening on this side so they match up. All right, so I got the front of the brow done. Now let's go back to this side and move towards the tail. So I don't know if you can see this, but I have another sparse area right here. I'm thin up top over here, and then my tail is very skinny. If you were born or lived through the 90s like I did, you probably overplucked and have also very skinny eyebrow tails. So this is gonna help you out. So as I'm moving here, I'm still gonna work at the bottom, start at the base of the brow, and I'm just doing light strokes along the bottom and up in between the hairs. Really applying in between the hairs is gonna be key. Now I'm gonna go to the top right here where it's missing some more. And I'm going to just follow my natural brow. I'm not going above my hairs. I'm not overdrawing. I'm just filling in between. This is where I think people go wrong, is they tend to overdraw their brows too much. And then that's why it ends up not looking as natural as you want it to. It looks painted on. So for the arch here, I did have to go a little bit above the hairs of my brow because there's nothing there. And I needed to make sure that it balances what's going on the other side. And this tail is really sad. This one is a lot thinner than my other side. Do you see how skinny this is? Guys, what were we thinking? And if you're watching this and you're a lot younger than me, try not to over tweeze your eyebrows. In fact, fun fact, if you ever tweeze your eyebrows and you see a white little bulb at the end of that brow that you plucked out, you pulled out the hair follicle, which means it's not gonna grow back. So just be careful. So to fill in this tail, I'm gonna work on this side before I go back to the other side because this one needs more help. I'm just going to follow the actual tail itself, but I'm going and drawing on top of it. I don't want to go below it because remember, we want to use the actual brow hairs as our root. So I'm painting just on top and dragging it down to meet the end. Going back up to where the arch is, so I just have a nice transition. Also, just so you know, my elbow is resting on my desk, which is helping keep my hand steady. So make sure that you have an anchor too to help you out in case you've got some shaky hands. This area is a little stubborn, so I'm just pressing it on top to really make sure that that product gets stamped. Okay, I like the way she looks. Let's go ahead and finish this other side. And for here, real quickly, I don't have to fill in as much. I'm just gonna go over the tail just to make it look a little bit thicker. And I like to put the pencil first at the arch so the product is coming from somewhere and it helps keep a very straight line. If you don't use brow gel, I highly recommend getting some because this is going to make your brows stay in place, especially if you've got unruly brows. This is gonna help tame them. The Anastasia Clear Brow Gel is my favorite. It literally works like hairspray for your brows, and it's the only one that truly keeps the hairs in place. And you just wanna comb up in the direction that they grow. You've probably heard this saying before, but if you haven't and you struggle with balance and symmetry, just remember your brows are sisters, not twins, which means that they just have to look similar, but they don't have to be identical. And if you tend to end up with something that's more like a distant cousin, let me know in the comments where you go wrong and I'll help you out.